to this brand new series of e-commerce specialist course, part 1, SP API. Before I walk you through the entire process or cover all the domain and technical aspects of SP API, let me tell you who this is for. So probably if you're an e-commerce seller and want to automate your processes, but you're not very technical, then you can hire a team. And if in case you are a technical person and also an e-commerce seller, then this video will be very beneficial for you because you can follow each and every step. In case you are a service provider or an agency, you can offer these services to other sellers and help them automate their processes. In case you are a small and medium sized business who is offering or services and also building tools, you can use this API to build an automation tool and offer it to others. Amazon has come up with a seller partner application programming interface. And when you use this, you can have an programmatic access to all the processes that you do manually on your Seller Central, which means you can implement a technical aspect where you can automate the process of listing, fetching orders, generating sales reports, and your shipment. Anything and everything that you do manually on your Seller Central can be automated. So if you're willing to automate this process, let's start this topic of SPAP. So before I talk more about the content or the exact topic that we are here for, let me just talk about the global recession that is taking place. So as we are all aware, or if you're not aware, major giants like Facebook, Twitter, Amazon, Microsoft have recently laid off a huge number of employees. And even if you've heard 6 months back about Wipro laying off because of moonlighting, do you think if a company has to lay off because of moonlighting, is it that the company is not paying enough or the employees are not being tracked enough? If that is the case, is it that the employees enjoy more flexibility while working as a freelancer rather than working on a 9 to 5 job? Think about it. So, I think so remote working is taking the pace, and working as a freelancer or working full-time remote is more something everybody is looking forward to. We are working with teams wherein we are placed at different demographics, and it's not that we connect at a common time or work at a common time, but it's more about the communication keeps happening in an asynchronous way. So we have tools, we have more of the channels there where what we do, we keep sharing, what work we do, we keep connecting on that, not being present at the dedicated time, but yes, whoever works at whatever time, they keep updating each other, and that's how we work as a remote team effectively and efficiently. Now companies like Crossover hiring top 1% talent, and they are working for past 20 years only remote. So I don't think so it is dependent on the pandemic or the current situation. For past 2 years people thought that it's a temporary phase of remote working, but I guess it is something that has just accelerated, that everybody now knows that there is an option to work remote, especially when you're working on something that is digitally transmittable. And it also helps 80% of women who just leave their jobs because they have their responsibilities. And I have been doing it for successfully for past 9 to 10 years now, working from home, delivering, working with multiple clients, and I'm sure this type of content will help other women also to jump into their career and responsibility, taking it along and working on more on such projects. But before we get into what SPAPI is or how to configure each and every step of SPAPI, it is very important to understand what is an API, or probably earlier we used to call it web services. Well, if any two applications have to interact or exchange data which are not based on the same platform or probably not on the same API, Just let me give you a very quick example which I implemented in 2005. That was my very first project as a developer on web services. We had to exchange data between two applications. One was based on Java and the other was on .NET. And I implemented web services for the first time with my team, and it was very challenging. At that time, there were less resources. We didn't have Google to search about it, and we implemented SOAP-based API. We implemented a SOAP-based web services to exchange data between these two applications. So any application have to communicate. We need to use web services. So as I mentioned that any two applications can connect using an API or web services. So two softwares or two computers connect to each other using this feature. How do you establish this connection? That we will discuss a little later. But before that, why is it so beneficial? So any company, any industry, or any software, any business that implements this can just use it as a plug and play, which means once it is implemented or once it is in place, you don't have to make any changes to your existing code or your existing technical aspects that are there in place. You just have to you have to add new features. You just call another API or call another web services. You don't have to code it again or make any changes into the existing one. It is just few changes to the API and you make a call to the. Also, let me discuss a little bit about the current structure of web services, or how it used to be, what are the various options that a web services offers. So on earlier days, there was only an option to create a SOAP-based web service where the exchange of data was done on XML. Now, XML has its own limitations, and that's why REST came in place. Now, REST is mainly dependent on JSON. If you have never heard about it, probably just go and read about it. If you are a technical person, you might be knowing about it. If not, then you can just browse it, Google it, and study more about it. Because if you are not aware about the technical aspects, it's going to be difficult for you to implement. And in case you want more details about it, we are covering it in detail in my course of e-commerce specialist. You can also reach out to me for any queries if you have. But let me again discuss the structure. This is a web services where a web browser or a mobile based application interacts to another service or another application using web services. It can be SOAP based or RESTful. In SOAP based, it is a WSDL that is created, which is more or less like an XML, and a REST base is dependent on JSON. Once it interacts with the application, we just dump all the data that we have exchanged through these two applications into a database. So that is the entire structure of how the web services works. If you really want to understand it more into the detail, you can join our course. Again, a little bit extension of what exactly the flow is of a SOAP based and what is the flow for REST based. So when a client is looking for some data or trying to pull some data from a server or another application, we implement a SOAP base is implemented through an XML exchange, and there are some SOAP standards that have to be followed when you are exchanging data using a SOAP based web services, which is a little overhead because you have to follow those standards, and it is a bit cumbersome to implement and even difficult to understand for someone who is not an extensive developer or doesn't know how to build a structure in XML. So we have to learn that first, and then only they can implement a SOAP based web service. But in REST, that is not the case. It is not so strict. The data structure can be anything. So you don't have to maintain the data structure in REST, and you can connect to the server and exchange data very easily. Let me talk about a very real life example. You have might have seen, if you're not a technical person, don't worry about it. You can still understand the domain aspect and have it done through someone, outsource it to someone who is more technical. So if you want to understand the domain aspect, this is a very real life example, because every one of us use Google apps in our daily life, be it Gmail, be it Gtalk, be their calendar, or so many other apps that Google offers. And all of this interacts with a third party or a different application to exchange data. So, for example, when you're logging into a browser, which asks you, either you give your email or password to sign in, or maybe you can just use a Google sign in, which is your Gmail ID. Have you ever thought how that works? You don't give your password, then how that third party tool or that browser application comes to know that this is your Gmail access? Well, that is the Google API that has already been implemented in Google and has been extended to so many other third party tools, that you just click on that Gmail access and you are ready to sign in without having it giving any details. So that is the simplest or easiest way to understand what is a API actually and how it works. Now, when an industry or an service provider or any seller who wants to implement this, what is the main reason behind they would want to do it? It is exchange of data while you want to integrate into a third party tool. Like I gave you an example of Google, where the password is exchanged to some other service provider without you having to give the password manually. So it is just your Gmail ID has been given and password has been exchanged internally, which you are not aware about, and you don't have to worry about giving it anymore, or maybe not even remembering new passwords. So that is the implementation. But for a seller aspect, there are so many things to be done manually. So in order to avoid that manual process, this API comes in place, wherein what is the listing, where is your order located, what are the orders, what is the volume of the order, what is the pricing, and to implement it based on AI, and then make changes to the pricing for a seller. And also the shipment processes, the sales report, all can be automated using this API, so it is very beneficial. Now, if a seller is almost selling, maybe more than 200 or 300 products in a day, or even in a month, or their volume is so high that they are selling 1000 products in a day, then it is a very effective process for them to implement, because they can't handle so much of burden and they have to automate their process. In case you are a small seller, then you can still manage it manually. Who am I? I am Ankita Agarwal, IT professional turned freelancer, making a mark on all freelancing platforms, turned entrepreneur, managing multiple high ticket clients and virtual teams, a founder of VASS 24 by 7. There are still many service providers who are already offering such automation services to their sellers using the MWS. Now, what is this MWS? So, before we implement SP API, it is very important to understand what is the current implementation that Amazon offers, which is Amazon MWS, Amazon Marketplace Web Services. It is also an integration where sellers can programmatically exchange data, which is listing your orders, payments, reports, or anything related to your seller central account. Now, why this implementation has been changed? Because MWS is more based on SOAP based, and the new version that has come up is SP API is based on REST. And why SP API or REST is so efficient than compared to MWS, I will just cover it. But if you want to go into more details, you can definitely join our course. MWS data integration is based on XML, as I already told you about that, and you can still use it to grow your business, or maybe the sellers that you're offering services to, you can help them implement that MWS. But it's soon going to be deprecated by Amazon, and more of use will be on SP API. So it is better that you move your current implementation from MWS to SP API. MWS also helps you increase your selling efficiency. It's not that only SP API could do that, but still it has its own limitations. And if you are not aware of that, just go and study about the Amazon MWS. Just go and study more about it so you would know what is the current implementation and what is the new implementation. Because if you're offering services, you must even know a little bit about the background. It's not just learning the new skills. But if you are just starting out, have a go through the documentation. Amazon has a very detailed documentation. If you still don't understand, you can ask me for any queries by writing any comments below. And if you still want to learn more about it, you can join our course. What is the eligibility for using Amazon MWS? You need to have a seller account or maybe an Amazon payment system, or you are using Amazon Fresh, Amazon Business, Amazon Prime. So only when you have all of these or any one of these accounts, then you can use the developer account of Amazon MWS and build your application for a single seller, for yourself, or for any tool that you want to build. What Amazon MWS provides, I've already covered, but still a quick brief of: you can build an application for your Amazon seller account. You can also build it for other sellers. What Amazon MWS provides. So what you can do using it, though I've already given a brief of that, but still let me give you a quick pointer of what it is. You can look up for products for sale, that is, if there is a sale for other products, you can use it through your code and pick all those products. You can also download your orders for fulfillment and then integrate it with your shipping partner. You can also confirm shipping through this process and you don't have to do it manually. You can schedule and receive reports, whether it's sales or orders or any other reports that's generated, to help you automate the process. But coming back to the same question, why SP API, or why transition from MWS to SP API? Well, technical aspect of this is only that MWS API is based on XML, which is a little, has a compulsory structure to implement and then enforces you to follow those standards. So you need to learn XML at an extensive way, have to understand the data structure, and then only you can implement. So it's easier to implement. Obviously, if you are technically aware, you might be knowing JSON. So if you don't know JSON, go and Google about it, learn more about it. If you are looking to implement SP API, understanding to JSON is very important if you're going to implement this. And if still you don't want to take that burden and learn and find at different resources, maybe YouTube, maybe Google, what is the authentic source, what is more relevant to you, so you can also join our course. And coming back to why you should transition from MWS to SP API. One is this XML and JSON difference. Other is there is an additional layer of abstraction over HTTP, which makes it more secure. You have some static with non-adjustable rate boundaries in MWS. The error handling process is very cumbersome in MWS and it's way more easier in SP API. Technical aspect is that with less of effort, you can efficiently automate the process. There is also one more overhead of MWS, that you have to wait for one process to complete and only then you can start the other process. So probably that restriction is not for REST based or for the SP API. There can be multiple processes that can be handled. Coming back to how you can implement SP API. SP API definitely is a modern suit of REST API, and it is not only efficient, it is way more easier to implement technically, but the entire process is very lengthy. Once you have done the entire process, then it will be very easy for you to implement it in future. but the very first time the implementation is a little lengthy, and that's why I've come up with this video so that you are aware of what is the exact step-by-step process to implement it. You can go to the developer account through your seller central. So you have to log into your seller central and go to this developer account where you can see that it is the SP API documentation is available on GitHub, and you can also register your account if you have not already done. If you are just starting out, you have to log in through your seller central, register on this developer account where you can get started. Through this, you can get access to the GitHub. It is a modernized suite of REST APIs using standards that today's developers need to automate the process. What are the features that seller API or the selling partner API offers? You can pull your orders, you can manage your shipping. So every order or shipment process that was done manually before, you can automate that process. Whether you are a seller or a vendor, both can implement SP API. It's not only restricted to a seller. And a seller can be private seller, could be a public seller, and even the vendors. So all these three parties. So understanding the domain aspect is also very important when you're trying to implement that who is this for. It is also for the vendors that who can implement SP API. Now let's come to the main step, a step-by-step configuration of SP API. I'm going to walk you through each and every step that is required to configure this. The very first step is you have to go to the console. The link is already on the screen. It is console.aws.amazon.com. So if you don't have an AWS account, that is the very first requirement to get you started if you're just starting out. If you already have an AWS account and still want to implement SP API, these steps are still mandatory for you in case you are implementing it for the very first time. So go to your console, go to IAM and create a new user. This is how you can register as an IAM user. Click on the user and start creating a new user. I have just given you screenshots because if I try to record and implement everything, this video could be maybe for 2-3 hours, but that's not what everybody wants to watch. So I've given you quick screenshots, and if you want to go into the detail of each and every step where I record how I have implemented this, then you can join my course definitely. This is how a user looks like when you're creating it. You give them access by checking this very first checkbox. This gives you a programmatic access, and then it will generate an access key and also a secret key. You have to keep all those keys, both these keys. When you register as a user, it gives you two keys. One is your access key and one is your secret access key. You have to keep both these keys very safe and save it to a location where only you have access. The secret key will be required when you are trying to integrate it to the API. Once you have created your user, next step will be to create a new policy. So even if you have it in your AWS account, do not try to use an existing one when you're connecting for the first time to your SP API. You have to create a new policy after creating the user. So once you've done that, this policy, if you can see, I have clicked on the JSON tab. This you have to take from the Amazon documentation. You have to go to the Amazon documentation. The link I will provide in the description below from where you can take it. You copy the exact JSON that they have provided and copy it here. I have already copied the screen that you can see is the one that I have taken from Amazon documentation. But in case you have not done that and something else appears on your screen, make sure it is just similar to the one that is showing on the screen or the one that is mentioned on the Amazon document. Once you have generated that policy, you have to create a new role for yourself. So this provides you an administrative role so that you can have access to your SP API. Click on the create role and create a new role. Once the role has been created, let's start with the next steps. But before we move on, let me confirm. Before starting this, you have to have a new IAM user, a new policy, and a new role. Once you have done that, you have to have a developer access, and I have already shown you how you have to get that developer access if you don't have already. If you already have a developer access in the Amazon Seller Central, this is how it looks, and you click to add new app client and then create a new client. This is very important step because you will get the token here that is required for you to access your seller central. Only through this token you can do that. After you have created this app over here, you have to self authorize yourself, so that once you self authorize, only then it is available. There is the token that is generated. You can access the API using this authorization. So this self authorization step is very important before you proceed. Before we proceed, we also need to understand why we are doing the self authorization process, or what is the main reason behind doing these steps, or probably why this authorization is actually required. So when you authorize someone or even yourself, there is a token that is generated behind, and using that token only can you access the API. Now there are two types of token, and I can't cover everything in detail right here in this video, so I'll more talk about the restricted data token. So the other token is also used if you are not using the restricted API, but if you have to use some personally identifiable information, that is PII. So any restricted data on your seller central, you need to have access to the restricted data token. Now, what is this access token? How it is generated? We will still cover in further steps, but just to brief you that once that app is added in your developer account, a token is generated. But through that token, you have to create or you have to generate an access token which gives you a temporary access to your seller central API, and that token is only used for 1 hour. So when you generate that token, that is a fresh token generated, it is called an access token, and once that is generated, it is only available for 1 hour for you to access API. So you have to cover this programmatically, that how every time you're making a login or access to your API, you have to generate a fresh token, and then based on that, call your Seller Central API. Again, after 1 hour, when you need that, you will have to generate a fresh access token. Need more details on what these tokens are, how it is implemented, what are the parameters, or what is the technical aspect behind it, I would recommend that you go through the documentation that I have given in this description below. If you still don't understand and you have more queries, you can reach out to me on the email and the number that is given below. And you could also join our course to understand the exact flow, the technical and the domain aspect that I cover in the course. And it is not only SP API that I cover in the course, this is just part one of that. Moving ahead, how you can test or how you can quickly generate your access token, so that the flow that you are implementing or the keys that you are using are correct. So just to authenticate the keys that you are using, you can use Postman. If you're not aware of Postman, you can go and register to Postman. It is free, and you can test out the keys or the tokens that you have. Now you can see on the screen, one is the refresh token. So when you add your app, that is the token that is generated, and one is the access token. You needed to access your API, and that token is only available for 1 hour, as I mentioned earlier. There are other ways also to do it. You can use it, you can test this through the code, but that takes time. Anyways, you have to implement the code later on, but this is the quickest way to test whether your keys or the all you need the access key, you need the secret key, you need the tokens. So all of those values are correct and are working fine or not. Postman is the easiest way to test it, and it can be done in more less than 5 minutes. Next is the step to implement it through a language. So if you are a Java developer, you can do it through the steps that is on the screen. If you are a .NET developer, you can do it using that. Amazon has provided an extensive documentation on that. For Java, I will provide the link in the description below, and you can follow those steps. Steps are also on the screen. These are the step-by-step process that you need to follow. And these steps, if you miss any of them, you will not be able to access the key. You will not be able to access the API. So please carefully follow each and every step. And in case you face any issues, you can comment below or reach out to me on my email. You need to install first. Obviously, if you are an existing Java developer, you might have the installation or the setup on in place. If you still don't have it, make sure to download the latest version of JDK, an IDE that you might be using, a Maven builder that you might know. If you don't know that, you can Google about it or use VJet. I used VJet because that is what Amazon is recommending, but you can use any other. It still works. After you have done that, you take the local repository, the GitHub repository to your local. So make a local instance of the seller API, pull it from GitHub, then go to command prompt, generate your Swagger code. To generate your Swagger code, first you need to generate a jar file. And once that jar file is generated, you have to copy the sellers.json. This is a very important step, so I'm repeating it again. The seller.json that is already there in the seller API models, you have to just copy from that local copy that you pulled from GitHub. You will find it there. Just copy that sellers.json into a new folder that you created on your C drive or wherever you have set your JDK path to build. Copy that seller.json to that folder. As it is mentioned in the screenshot, create the same folder swagger to CL, copy that seller.json, and then you can generate your Swagger code client. This is the client that you will use when you are using your API, and you will access to all the other API. This is a quick screenshot of how you can generate your jar or what are the steps, and this is how the screen will look when the jar is generated. I am not walking you through the entire thing, but just showing it to you through the screenshots so that you are aware that these are the steps and you're not missing any of them. But still, if you want to go into the details, you can join the course. This is how you generate your this is how you generate the seller's Java CL, which is a client which you need to call when you are calling any API. So you can use that. Once that Swagger is generated, either you call it through your Eclipse ID or any other ID that you might be using as a developer, or you can also implement it if you are aware of swagger.io. If you're not aware of swagger.io, I would recommend that you can go ahead and write code and do it through the ways that you know. If you still want to know more about swagger.io, I've given the link in the description below, and you can follow and study more about swagger.io. I would also create more videos on Swagger in the next series to come so that you know how to use it and how to implement. That is a very quick implementation if you want to do, your technical stuff a little. This is the Java code that I have built in Eclipse. This is the client that has generated the seller API and the method. So I'm just quickly showing you how it looks when it is generated. This is the API that we generated through the Maven build, and you can just see this is how it looks like. Let me also show you all the API that is generated once you build and integrate it into your IDE. So Just a quick look, these are the classes, these are the Java classes, this is the model. You can access all of this and call your SP API. But still, if you want more extension, still if you want more information on this or a detailed description of how this is to be implemented, you can always reach out to us. This is the test class that I had created just to quickly test the connection is working or not, the OAuth connection is working or not, the tokens are working or not, is generated or not. Fetch all the details from the marketplaces. This is how it looks. Once you are set with all the code in place, you also need to know that where you need the data, how to use it in various forms. So pull and push off the data that you have extracted using your code. You can also implement it in Google Sheets. So you just write some scripts and pull all the data into a Google Sheet. You can also implement this to a database data analysis. Sorry. You can also pull this extracted data and use it to integrate into a data analysis tool, or maybe store it directly to your database and use it from there for your analysis or the reports or any automation that you're looking for. You can also further integrate it to your supply chain management, for example, ShipRocket. I will also cover that in detail how you can do that, and you can and you can use this SP API in various languages like .NET or Java or Python, whichever you find it technically you are sound in, you can implement using that, or you can just write scripts to fetch a quick data using Google Sheets. This is how a sheet looks like when we have pulled the data into a sheet using the SP API. And once the sheet is generated, this is how the orders and everything is pulled out. This is a dashboard of a data analysis tool. So once the integration is done to the data analysis tool, this is how the integration looks like. I'm just giving you a snapshot, a brief idea on how it looks like after the integration. A detailed coverage of this is again covered in the course. So I'm just giving you a quick snapshot of it. You can also integrate it to your, dump the whole data that you have pulled into a database. Apart from doing it into a database or MySQL, you can also do it through Amazon Redshift. So if you're not aware of what Amazon Redshift is or how it works, it is a serverless cloud-based data where you need to create your clusters and access the data based on the region. Now you can pull all the data through this. I will create a separate video for Amazon Redshift because it's again a very extensive topic. So stay tuned for more. Again, an integration with your supply chain management. So if you want to automate the entire process, right from listing to delivering your customer the orders, then you can integrate it to your supply chain management using ShipRocket. This is a sample of how it looks like when you want to integrate it, but detailed is covered in the course. If you have any queries or if you really like such videos or you find it valuable, do share your feedback and comments in the below section. If you find some flaws, make sure to share that as well. And if you have any queries or questions on how to do it, you're facing any issues, even then you can reach out to me on the email ID, the WhatsApp number, and also do visit the courses link where it is available. So you can reach out to us for a detailed course on how you can become an e-commerce specialist. And this is just one part of it, the implementation of SP API. I'm going to come up with more such videos where I will cover a detailed aspect on what is a domain aspect or a technical aspect, or how you can efficiently, effectively use tools and the softwares that are available in the market. So stay tuned for more. Next, I will come up with AWS and extensive coverage on EC2, S3, Amazon Redshift, and IAM. So stay tuned for more. Thank you so much.